Thank you. It's not that big. Come on, it's just Filipe Manuel dos Santos Albuquerque Barroso. It's just my father name, my mother name, my family name. I don't get it. Thank you for being here. I think you were the first in line for lunch, so thanks. So I always like to start, even for me, with a bit of hero pose. So let's raise your hands a bit. Let's go. Come on, I can see you, so you better do it. Unless you're eating, I know. Thank you for eating here. I hope you enjoyed the show. I also like to have just watch a TV show while I work or during lunch break, of course. So. It's a bit hard to miss, so this is me, okay? Maybe a bit more beer, and just to be sure that you're on the right talk, yeah? It's behavior-driven development with Flutter. And just a raise of hands who have handled with behavior-driven development before? Okay, so awesome. Just to, a lot of people still don't know what it is. And we are going to take it slow. It's a kind of boring topic, but I will try to make it entertainment as possible. Just a bit about myself. Yeah, that's my name, my shorter version. I've been a community organizer for many years now. I founded the Flutter Portugal community 4 years too. And software developer 10 plus years. You know what that means when someone says 10 plus something, right? It means I was a developer for 10 plus 1 month. So no, it's a bit more. I've basically, who knows, I belong to Android team as sync task. You know, I had to use the sync task while developing Android apps, so that was something. But nowadays, something back, you know, now we are Flutter developers, we want to be here and learn something new. And I'm just like you guys, it's you folks, that I see interesting topic, I apply it in my company, and I try to share that knowledge with the community. So that's what I'm here for. You can find me not here during the talk, but afterwards, if you want to reach out, just tap on my shoulder, scare me, and I'll be willing to talk. The talk is divided in 2 parts. Okay, we'll introduce you to behavior-driven development. It's a mouthful, and then just at the end, how you can apply it into your Flutter apps. Okay, and the reason behind some decisions about it. Okay. So, what's behavior-driven development? We need to start, of course, to state what is a behavior test, okay, before going into development part. So imagine that we are talking about an ATM machine, and of course, with the ATM machine, we don't want the account holder, the customer, to just have a bath of money, you know, just open the machine and even coins come out, you know, it's kind of weird. So we want to be sure that it behaves correctly as it should, right? So what can we do? So this kind of way of writing a test, that I will mention its name afterwards, is a surprise, that is quite straightforward in English, to those who know English at least. That is, you can say, okay, given a certain account holder that is approaching the ATM in this case and wants to has a certain account value, he wants to withdraw a certain amount of money. And of course, we want to be sure that the cash machine has that money. So this is what we can assume the machine and the user and all of it. This is our context. Then there's a certain action. That action is really when an account holder requests that money. That's the action we are expecting. In the end, okay, we have the context, we have those actions. What will be the outcome? So in kind of this English is, okay, the machine will dispense the amount of money the user requested. The balance will be updated, and of course, the card that was inserted can be updated. Of course, this kind of test can go way more into details, a lot of nitpicking, but let's assume and simplify as this text. Alright, there we go. Gherkin. I just introduced you to Gherkin. Gherkin is really a way of writing a test, more specifically, right? It has these common reserved words that are highlighted, and this is what we as developers, we try to teach non-devs to write, okay? it's in plain English. Maybe there are even some solutions that you can use your own home language to write Gherkin. Gherkin is not something new; it's way old, but can be new to Flutter and can be new to the community. Hence, I realized there's an opportunity to share this knowledge. So, given that you understand, and it's plain English, right? What is a Gherkin language and how you can write one simple test? Let's move forward to just analyze this text. Like when I was planning step by step, and you realize that, okay, there's three areas, right? You have the context, the state, the initial state of that test itself, okay? Just jumping and making a small bridge to Flutter. And then you have this event, it's what we call this, what it triggers the action, what is happening to the system as overall. And of course, the outcomes, what is the results, what is the expected behavior too, okay? Again, in this Flutter terms of testing. Okay, remember this, context, events, and outcomes, because it's really as simple as it is. Every test will have these three areas, and if we have it in mind, really well defined, it's easier to understand, explain to the non-devs, because in the end of the day, we are trying to push a certain work to others, and this helps. Yeah. Context, events, and outcomes. So, in fact, it's really this. With behavior-driven development, we are writing a set of behaviors that the user can expect from the system, okay? And can be a bit tricky, but let me just also let's go on a special adventure of writing those user stories into behavior tests in the Gherkin. What's the reason behind this? Well, for those who kind of realize the context of domain-driven development, you realize that it's really important to have a common language between the start of the project to the development, right? And if we start in that horrible Jira to write, instead of user stories, we write the Gherkin format, it will make all our lives easier, okay? We need to be a proactive position. I tend to see people not being so proactive and try to push the company to adopt this kind of work, but in long term, it can be really helpful for the whole company. So this is a way of some companies do, and you follow through while writing stories, user stories, just when I want to and so I can, okay? So, and trying to compare this with the language, let's follow through. So we have the when, the situation, the motivation, and then the expected outcome of it. And it's quite as simple as that. And immediately at first, while reading this, you can realize that there's a direct match, kind of a direct match to Gherkin language. And it's not by chance, okay? Even for this really reduced example, a user opens the app, you want him to see login page because it's not authenticated, so he can authenticate. It's kind of, okay, the language can be weird, but given the situation, motivation, the expected outcome, you can easily translate it to a more behavior test. How can this translate to a behavior test? Well, you can say that the user is not authenticated, he opens the app, and then if he's not authenticated, he will be presented with login page, right? So he can authenticate. This is just a small example, but just for you to get bearings out of it. So being if you are trying to push BDD into, or behavior tests into your company, it's important to understand how the user stories are written in your company, if they are similar to this kind of when I want, so we can. It will be way easier if there's another format normally you can easily adapt to and teach. Have a small lightning talk, workshop, whatever inside of your company, so that they can start writing, instead of these user stories, they can start writing the behavior tests. Okay, behavior tests. Another awesome opportunity about behavior test is really they can be written anytime. Okay, before you write the codes, while you are writing the codes, you can add the behavior tests, and even after you have your feature implemented, you can write those behavior tests. It's not a big deal. What changes is really the mentality around it. It's just after it, it's like, oh my God, I'm not going to write tests. The features is working. I better just write the fix for that bug and write the tests for that bug. Then, okay, the telemetry will find it, right? I don't care about writing tests afterwards. But if the company already has those Gherkin tests written down, it's easy. It's really easy to write those tests to make sure that feature is running properly, even after the code is written down. A bit about that later on. However, if you write the behavior or you have the tests before, well, congrats. It's behavior-driven development, right? I mean, you can force on your company that you only write the feature after you have the tests, right? Because the idea here is you have a set of features you want to test, right? At first you have no code, but in fact, no code, no bugs, right? So that's awesome. That's a good start. And to try to keep that to try to keep that no bugs during your development, you simply, okay, you have all the behavior tests you want on the left for one behavior test basically for a feature. And as soon as you implement that feature, if the behavior test passes, one behavior test or multiple behavior tests, of course, to try to handle everything, awesome. You can now step into the next feature and so on. It's a breeze to at least to write those tests, have those tests prepared, write your feature, and then okay, in terms of behavior, it's working as intended. Let's go, great success, the great success, the great success. Yeah, that's amazing. So it's really, this talk is really more shortened. I hope you save your questions for later. Ask your questions on the app and website, please. Now a bit about BDD with Flutter. It's for those who try to use Dart for backend, realize my pain. That is, things change over time, right? But I'll a bit about that afterwards. So just trying to insert behavior tests in the three types of tests we have in Flutter, right? We have our unit tests, we have the integration tests we have, right? The end-to-end GUI, and then the widget tests. And the behavior tests inserts in between these widgets and integration tests. Because with behavior tests, it's not expected that you mention the UI, okay? It's not expected that you say in the test, the user clicks that specific button. The user clicks that, no. We are talking about behavior of the user. It's just, if we are talking about clicking a specific button, you don't say that button. You say, user tries to log in, user submits the form, user does X, not the action precisely. So it's kind of this behavior test. About what I mentioned, the pains of developing Darts for backend. I mean, we had Aqueduct, we had so many good libraries around to build Dart for backend. Luckily, a company grabbed that missing opportunity and developed more library, really good library, really good, right, kind of very good, you know, a very good library for backends. And so the same for BDD. When I submitted this talk and I went to check the library I used for this talk, I noticed it wasn't updated for the past year, more than 1 year. So, god damn it. Also because the company I was working before, we were applying BDD, then I changed company, and meanwhile, the library wasn't updated, and that's terrible to see, right? So of course the mentality when we are coding a project is to minimize the amount of dependencies, we know, but for BDD it's helpful to use a library. So After a long research, I realized that we have this kind of new library, BDD framework. The way it builds the tests into code is different, but I do agree with the maintainer. But who's the maintainer, and why should we care, right? But, well, big names of our in Flutter community goes around it, right? If Felix writes a new library, we will flock into it, you know? If Felix starts writing a VDD framework, I'll switch like so, right? So the background of the maintainers is important in our community. Of course, we have to give opportunities to new maintainers, but if you want to have codes in production, that can be tricky, right? And with that mindset, I was really happy to know that maintainer is Marcelo Glassberg. Who is this one? You know, who's this fellow? And in fact, he wrote many libraries, but there's one article he wrote, but that I definitely bet that you read. Constraints go down, sizes go up, and parent set position. You know, I mean, for me, it's like the holy grail to have one article published in the official Flutter Dev website, you know. And when you do a background check, not a creepy background check, I didn't check there is Instagram or whatever, it's just follow his work on GitHub and all. I know it's a developer that I can trust, you know. And this is really important. Mainly also because I started my new job really the beginning of last week. And one of the goals is to apply BDD as I applied a previous company. So it's really important that I trust. I know where the maintainer lives. I'm joking. Marcelo, if you are watching, I don't know where you live. But it's important to know who you are relying with, right? So, and now about going back to BDD framework. It's different. It's really different than the other ways of developing BDD tests. I'm calling BDD, it's easier than behavior-driven development. So the thing is, if we have on your right, we have the Gherkin, a certain specific, just a counter test, you know, that we have, you want to increment the article. So the main difference is it doesn't rely so much on code generation. And in fact, it was really a pain because I was using really a previous library that you just copy-pasted from Jira all the behavior tests in Gherkin. You paste it into a file called a feature, and then it will generate all the codes out of it. What was the issue with that? Well, the person who wrote those tests maybe wasn't really proficient. There were always some errors with the tests, so it was like, okay, he wrote the tests, I'm regenerating the code, oh, some errors. Open a ticket, wait for him to be resolved, run again, fail, go and back and forward. So that was a pain. In fact, that's why after that company, I really kind of disregard behavior-driven development for the new company, for the new startup, because of it. Because it was really a pain to go back and forth between the non-dev, the functional guy, into the code directly. But here, as you can see on your left, it's more, you will have to write your own code. I mean, you have to grab the test, the Gherkin test, and write it in the code directly. You can prepare some scripts. I'm challenged the community also to find a good solution to this. I'm thinking creating some snippets, really quick snippets. I don't want to use code generation. Sorry, Bill, but it's one-on-one mention. And this way you can also avoid common errors when writing Gherkin tests. Again, on your left, this is just one test. Usually you have 5 or more on the same file. And then if you realize the name of the file on the left is not underscore test, because you can write afterwards you can have a file with the suffix underscore test that runs every test you wish for a specific case, okay? So that's why I'm omitting that part. So it's really like that. So as you can see, we have the feature. It's also feature is a reserved word, a counter. And then you write, okay, let's assign it to a variable. feature. Then you have this comment. You can write comments in the Gherkin tests. In the code, it will be a simple comment. There's no function for it, no builder for it. But as soon as you go on, you can see that there's a scenario. You have the given reservoirs. And of course, in between scenario and given, in this first example of the ATM, I had a lot of ands, right? And it's also possible in between. So you keep on building this until you have the final result that is a callback. But before the callback, I even have this highlighted example. What does it mean? For those who are paying attention, I have this value here. You put it in this minor and greater signs so that the platform, this BDD framework package knows that it will be inserted a certain integer, string, any type double, any type of Dart, you can use it in here. So you can have, it's quite powerful, the package, because you can run the same test multiple times for multiple values. I'm really trying not to scare you with this example, but when you go into the package, it's so beautiful written. You know, there's details for everything. The README is big, well detailed, but in fact too detailed. You can see tests written with many variables, examples, so you can see immediately that it's quite powerful, and it works. And when you look into the source codes, well, you might not do that, but I did. It's understandable, you know. It's clear, it's not that big, so if you want to tweak or you have an issue understanding the code behind this, you can easily understand that, okay? Okay, and this example, I haven't written here, but you can have, of course, like I said, multiple examples inside, so you can have not only various types, in this case the value, but you can have common something, something, something. So it's quite powerful. In the end, we have this run. So we have this run callback, and here is where you finish your test. What does this mean? It means that it's where you call your state, where you mock everything you need. And at first I was skeptical because I don't want to write so much code. I want to be able of just write the behavior test and that's it. But the thing is, this brings so much power into and possibility to this framework because you can mock what you want. You can run the test. You can play with values you inserted to run. So at the end, you'll end up being okay. I'm kind of fine with this. Let's do this. I'm not using an example here because I'm not going to talk about state management here. So that's a different discussion maybe for later. But if you're interested in knowing more, I'll be around the whole day and tomorrow. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about tests. Okay? And that's it. This is how you write. Really simply, it's a builder way of building the feature, right? So, and it's quite direct. It's quite simple to do. So to conclude, and yeah, it's okay. So just more 5 minutes or so. Pros and cons of BDD. Well, pros is really okay. You write the codes, you know the rules of engagement, you know the Gherkin language, you know what's the goal. It's understandable. It's clear English, right? So, and as soon as you build, if you use BDD. Even the evolution, people say it's the evolution of TDD, you can commit with confidence because it's just you write your feature and then you have the BDD there. So you start seeing the green lights, it's quite good. And of course the third point is you push the writing of the behavior tests to someone else in the company. But if you have to do yourself, it's also simple. And of course, you have tests at the end. Who doesn't like tests at the end? And it's quite a pro. The cons, yeah, we can say it's slow to write to run these tests, but again, You leave it to CI/CD. Of course, you can run. You need to run them on your machine, but you are writing a feature. You are opening the PR. The PR will you just open it, forget about it because it will give you a green light or a red light in terms of passing through, and you can just wait for it. It's okay-ish gone. This second topic for me, it's the more debatable one because in fact it won't tell you precisely what is failing, right? It won't tell you that is the cause of that business logic line that you are doing it wrong. You know, it just tells you the possible outcome. So in the end, you will have to match it with some unit tests for sure. You know, if you want to be sure, but maybe your company with the telemetry is good enough, and that's it. And third, yeah, maintaining that codes I show you on left. But by my experience, maintaining that codes, it's easy enough or more easier than the normal tests. You know, if the test is running precisely, I mean, if the feature is failing, probably it's not because of the test itself, right? So it's also a two-way. The final point, yeah. Teaching non-devs how to write those tests. Probably or not, they are devs. They have a background in here, but it's kind of fun to see the look of their faces. What is Gherkin? What a terrible naming is Gherkin, right? So yeah, that was my quick talk. Thank you for those who are arriving and those who stayed.